There's a particular kind of danger that lives in silence.
I am the champion.
Not the silence of peace, not the silence of emptiness. The silence that comes from a predator who has already decided, who has already calculated, who is simply waiting for the exact moment to strike. Mike Tyson understood this silence better than any fighter who ever lived, because the most terrifying thing about him wasn't the speed of his hands or the power in his fists. It was the stillness, the absolute suffocating calm before he destroyed you. Most men talk when they're afraid. They convince themselves, they convince the world, they fill the air with words because words create distance from the violence that's coming. But Tyson learned early that silence does something words can never do. Silence forces your opponent to confront the emptiness inside themselves, the doubt, the fear, the knowledge that something terrible is about to happen and there's nothing they can do to stop it. This is the story of how a broken boy from Brooklyn became the most psychologically devastating fighter in history, not because of what he did in the ring, but because of what he did before the bell ever rang. Mike Tyson was born into a world that taught him a single brutal lesson. Softness gets you hurt. Brownsville, Brooklyn in the 1960s wasn't just tough, it was a laboratory where weakness was identified within seconds and punished without mercy. And Mike was different. He had a lisp, a high voice. He raised pigeons on rooftops while other kids fought in the streets. He was gentle in a place that crucified gentleness. So the neighborhood did what it always did. It broke him. Bullies took his money, his dignity, his birds. They killed his pigeons in front of him, not for a reason, for sport, for the simple pleasure of watching something soft be destroyed. There's a particular kind of rage that forms in a child who has no power. It doesn't explode immediately. It goes underground, into the basement of the soul.
When the body is
learns,
strong enough
it
to
watches,
match the anger,
it waits.
it rises. Not as tears, not as words, as something else entirely. The first time Tyson fought back, he nearly killed a boy, knocked him unconscious for ripping the head off one of his pigeons. And in that moment, Tyson discovered something terrible and liberating. Violence worked. Violence made people afraid. And when people were afraid of you, they left you alone. But violence without control is just chaos. Tyson was headed toward prison or death, the only two exits Brownsville offered its sons, until he met a man named Cus D'Amato. Cus D'Amato didn't just teach boxing, he taught the psychology of fear. He understood that at the highest level, fighting isn't physical, it's mental. It's theater. It's a war between two nervous systems, and the one who controls their fear wins. The one who can weaponize their calm destroys the other. Cus had trained champions before. Floyd Patterson, a brilliant fighter, but Patterson was afraid of losing, afraid of pain, afraid of his own power. Cus wanted to build something different, a fighter with no visible fear, a fighter who understood that fear itself was the weapon. He brought Tyson to Catskill, New York, a small town that became a monastery for violence. And there, in that quiet house, surrounded by mountains, Cus began the transformation, not just of Tyson's body, of his mind. Cus would sit with Tyson for hours, talking about the mental game, about how fights are won before they start, about how the greatest weapon isn't the punch you throw, but the terror you create in your opponent's imagination before you ever touch them. And he taught Tyson something revolutionary: the power of silence. While other fighters talked, shouted, tried to convince the world they were dangerous, Tyson learned to be still, to watch, to let his presence do the work. Because when you talk, you reveal yourself. You show your insecurities, your need for validation. But when you say nothing, you become a mirror. And in that mirror, your opponent sees only their own fear. He stopped being the loud, hurt kid from Brooklyn. He became something else: quiet, methodical, a weapon wrapped in human skin. Every movement deliberate, every glance calculated. The mask formed slowly, carefully, until eventually Mike Tyson forgot where the mask ended and he began. Watch footage of Tyson entering the ring in his prime. No robe, no socks, just black trunks and a towel. While other fighters made their entrance into a performance, Tyson made his a funeral procession. No music, no spectacle, just the sound of his footsteps and 20,000 people holding their breath. The message was clear: this isn't entertainment, this is an execution, and it's already over. Then came the stare. There's a video from 1986, Tyson versus Jesse Ferguson. The referee brings them together for instructions. Ferguson is talking, moving, trying to assert himself, and Tyson is perfectly, completely still. He's not blinking, not moving a single muscle, just staring into Ferguson's eyes with the gaze of something that isn't entirely human anymore. You can see the exact moment Ferguson realizes. His jaw tightens, his breathing changes, he looks away. The fight is over. Ferguson will last 6 rounds on heart and pride alone, but mentally, spiritually, he's already been knocked out. This became Tyson's signature, the psychological knockout before the physical one. He would strip away his opponent's armor, their confidence, their training, their belief in themselves, before the bell ever rang. Every human being walks into a fight with psychological protection. They tell themselves they're ready, that they've trained for this, that they can handle pain. Tyson's job was to remove that protection, to reach into their chest and pull out the doubt that lives in every fighter's heart. And he did it with stillness, with eye contact, with the terrible certainty that violence was coming and nothing could stop it. Fighters described it as suffocating, like being in the ring with something that didn't operate on human rules. Tyson's trainer, Teddy Atlas, once said that Mike could make a man quit without ever touching him. Just through presence, through the knowledge written in his eyes that pain was inevitable. But here's what made it so devastating. Tyson's silence wasn't passive. It was the loudest possible statement. It said, "I don't need to convince you I'm dangerous. I don't need to prove anything. I know what I am, and very soon you will too." Michael Spinks learned this the hard way. Spinks was undefeated, a light heavyweight champion who moved up and beat everyone. Technically brilliant, mentally strong. In June 1988, he was scheduled to fight Tyson for the undisputed heavyweight championship, the richest fight in boxing history at that time. Spinks was terrified. Not nervous, terrified. His trainer later admitted Michael barely slept in the weeks before the fight. He'd watched the tapes, seen what Tyson did, how he didn't just beat men, but erased them, turned them into warnings. At the weigh-in, you could see it.
Spinks stepped on the scale and his body language told the whole story. Defeated, resigned, already looking for the exit. Tyson weighed in and the room went silent. He was carved from stone, his eyes empty. When they faced each other for the stare down, Spinks couldn't hold it. He looked down, looked away. His corner tried to hype him up, but it was already over. 91 seconds, that's how long Michael Spinks lasted in the ring. 91 seconds against a man who had destroyed him mentally days before they ever touched gloves. This is the power of strategic silence. Tyson didn't need to talk about what he was going to do. The silence let his reputation, his aura, his presence do all the talking. And in that silence, opponents created their own nightmares. They imagined the worst version of the fight, and then that's exactly what happened. But there's something nobody talks about, a cost that comes with being that person, with living every moment of your life as a weapon, with being the thing everyone is afraid of. After Cuss died in 1985, Tyson lost his anchor. The one person who understood the persona was a tool, not an identity. And slowly, Tyson began to believe his own mythology.
He wasn't playing the role of a monster anymore. He was the monster. The silence that had been strategic became isolation. The fear he created in opponents became the fear he felt inside himself. Fear that without the violence, without the intimidation, there was nothing left. No real self, no real connection to other human beings. His life outside the ring became chaos, failed relationships, legal troubles, addiction, depression. Because when you build your entire existence around being feared, what happens when the fear fades? When you lose, when you get older and the young fighters stop being intimidated. The silence that had been his greatest weapon became his prison. He couldn't turn it off, couldn't be vulnerable, couldn't ask for help, because the baddest man on the planet doesn't need help, doesn't feel pain, doesn't break. Except he did break. In 1990, in Tokyo, against Buster Douglas, the first loss. Then Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. But more than the losses in the ring, there was the breaking inside. The persona that had protected him, that had made him millions, that had made him a legend, became the thing that destroyed him. Years later, through therapy and honest reckoning with himself, Tyson would speak differently about that silence. He'd say the scariest opponent he ever faced wasn't in a boxing ring. It was the person he became to survive, the mask he could never fully remove. There's a weight to being feared, a loneliness that comes with it, because fear creates distance, it keeps people away, it isolates you in a crowd. And somewhere deep inside, even the baddest man on the planet is still that kid from Brooklyn who loved pigeons, who wanted to be loved back, who learned too young that gentleness gets you hurt. So he buried it, so deep he almost forgot it existed. Mike Tyson's strategic silence wasn't just a tactic, it was a tragedy. The most effective psychological weapon in boxing history, and it destroyed the man who wielded it almost as thoroughly as it destroyed his opponents. Because here's the truth about becoming a weapon. Weapons don't get to be human. They don't get to be afraid, to be soft, to need comfort. They just hurt. And eventually, they hurt themselves most of all. Tyson taught the world how to weaponize silence, how to turn stillness into terror,
how to win fights with a stare. But the cost of that lesson is written across every broken moment of his life after the glory faded. At 3 in the morning, when the crowds are gone and the cameras are off, the silence is still there, but it's not strategic anymore. It's not a weapon, it's just empty. Just the sound of a man who became so good at intimidation that he intimidated himself out of his own humanity. The baddest man on the planet was never his opponent. It was always him, fighting himself, in the only arena where silence doesn't help, where there's no referee, where the knockout never comes. Just the quiet, the terrible, endless quiet of a soul that forgot how to speak its own pain. That's the real cost of the stare, of the silence, of being the person everyone fears. You win every fight except the one that matters most, the one against yourself.